Welcome back, everyone. Sheepdog Smokey here, and it's only taken 10 years to get to this point, which is sad. But before we begin, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications so that you're among the first to know of all new content as it is posted. Now, for those of you who were following the news 10 years ago, we have Nidal Hasan, an Army psychiatrist, who on Fort Hood, Texas, went on a rampage, killing 13 and wounding 31. And just in the last couple of days, he's been sentenced to death. If it actually holds, he'll be the first in 58 years, the first since 1961, to be put to death by a military trial. Now, prosecutors, of course, sought the death penalty, and they did, in the case of the arguments, say this is not because Hasan is Muslim. This is because he killed 13 people and wounded 31 more. This is because of his actions. Nidal himself has said he wants to be a martyr, claimed he is a soldier of Allah. One, those facts should have had him dishonorably discharged and his salary gone. But unfortunately, that didn't happen, and he continued drawing his salary while in jail. And if I remember right, he was either an 03 or maybe 04 captain or major, and that's not a small salary. And he's got nothing to do with it. So he sits in jail drawing his salary while 13 families bury a loved one, and 31 more have to wonder what's going to happen. Now, Hasan himself is paralyzed from the waist down because a civilian police officer acted to stop him. This is, however, in 2009, while you're still disarmed while on base. If there's anywhere you should be allowed to carry a firearm, it's when you are a member of the military on base. We've had recruiters attacked in their office because they're not allowed to have a firearm which they're eminently qualified to use while on duty. None of it makes any sense. And Hasan specifically exploited that to murder 13 people and injure 31 more. This is, one, proof that our system needs to be changed. It should not take 10 years for a verdict like this to be issued. I understand that in a military tribunal, it requires a unanimous verdict to apply the death penalty. And that's fine. But why does it take 10 years? It shouldn't. The facts of the case were available within a month or less. Hell, they were probably available within a day, as I'm pretty sure Hasan probably bragged. So, let's go really long term for the investigation. Let's say 60 days, 2 months, to review any video footage, to get all the statements from witnesses, to depose Hasan, all of it. 2 months after the shooting. So that would have been January of 2010. Trial begins. Evidence is submitted. Hasan even acted as his own lawyer. So the evidence speaks for itself. And let's say that takes 6 months. So we're now up to August of 2010. Sentencing should have begun then. Let's say that took 3 months. So we're now into November 2010. Let's say then he has his appeal. And it takes the same amount of time. So November 2011. We're now 2 years past his shooting spree. He should have been sentenced at or before that time. Sentence carried out within a month of the appeal being finished. Personally, I want it faster than that. You're convicted of murder and sentenced to death, you get an appeal. And that appeal is fast-tracked. You're before a judge within days. New jury if that is required. The exact evidence presented to the original court and jury presented again. New jury is told, we want to know, Are you overturning the verdict? They're not there to examine all the evidence and declare guilty. They're there to look at the procedure of the first trial. Was there a reason that the first trial was invalid? If they say no, verdict stands, boom, done. This is an evil being who murdered people on an army base and then goes on to claim he is a soldier of Allah and will become a martyr. He won't. He's going to be put to death by lethal injection, which I hope they put a little bit of bacon grease in. This man should rot in hell for eternity because he tore 13 families apart and put 31 more through hell waiting on their loved one to get out of the hospital and, in most cases, probably begin rehab. How many mothers, fathers, brothers, sisters, children, wives had to say goodbye to someone that day? How many more sat in hospitals for God only knows how long, waiting on news that their loved one would be fine? And he sits in jail drawing a salary. It's unconscionable. Honestly, it is. When we have a situation like this, get it to trial. Present the evidence. Jury convicts and jury sentences. That trial's done. The appeal is not a new trial. The appeal is, do you think the first trial was valid and proper? That should take all but no time at all. The attorneys are not there to argue the original trial all over again. They're there to point out, well, we believe this part of the trial is invalid. And then the prosecution would say, no, that was valid, and here's why. And that's it. This is extremely sad and extremely angering to me. We have a man who joined the military and entered the officer ranks, where you're supposed to be an officer and a gentleman. He lied, point blank, when he took that oath. And he later murdered American servicemen and women, injured 3 times as many almost. And he got to sit in jail, getting his special meals because he can't eat certain things, doing whatever the hell he wanted all day long, reading, whatever, for 10 years. While these families had to wait for 10 years for justice. I know I sound cold. I know I sound uncaring. I know I probably sound a little bit vindictive. But you see, I've been a a law enforcement officer, and I've been a firefighter. In both jobs, my primary focus was protection of the innocent. In the first, from evil people. In the second, from things that we have no way of controlling, just battling. But there's something else. I have a very good friend of mine from high school who was there that day. I didn't know this until about 5 years ago when I went in to renew my license to carry. And I saw him, started talking to him, and I found out he was on Fort Hood that day. I don't remember if he was in the room or not, but when you're on base and something like that happens, there's all the questions. Are they headed to my building? Are they in my building? What's going to happen? Can I help? And I could see it in his eyes. He was still affected several years after the event by the betrayal of an officer in his branch of the military. A betrayal so horrible, 13 people lay dead, 31 more gravely injured. Hasan should, like I said, rot in hell. And I really don't know. One, I don't know if my computer just recorded all that or not, or froze, but let me know. It looked like it froze up on me. But this last bit is exactly the same, is exactly the right thing. This is his debt to society, and it is not a charitable act. He is not now and will never be a martyr. He is a criminal. He is a cold-blooded murderer. On 5 November, he did not leave this earth. He managed to pay a price, or he remained to pay a price. He remained to pay a debt. The debt he owes is his life. He actually said he had no closing statement. And then Mulligan also had this to say. History is replete with death in the name of religion. The acts of 5 November were religiously motivated. You should not punish him for his religion, Mulligan told jurors. You should punish him for his hate. You should punish him for the action he took in the name of his religion, not for his religion. And that is exactly right. He is not in prison and now faced with the death penalty because he is a Muslim. He is in prison and facing the death penalty because of his actions, because of what he chose to do. And that's the same for every criminal in any jail cell on the planet, or should be, although there are countries where that's not the case. But you go to jail for your actions. Not because you're a Muslim, not because you're liberal, not because you're conservative. You go to jail for your actions. And that's the way it should be. But I've talked long enough. Let me know what you think. Remember, though, keep it civil. We don't learn from argument, we learn from debate. As always, please remember to like and share the video so we can expand the conversation. And again, please remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so that you're among the first to know of all new content as it is posted.